Bobby's Girl. This one's obscure. I'd actually almost missed it on my first look through the Madhouse movies. It was released alongside Dagger of Kamui, as a double feature no less. A double feature. Could you imagine? Dagger of Kamui is already like 2 hours and 20 minutes, something, give or take, maybe longer. It's like a 3-hour feature. That's a lot of animation. And I don't know if I could have done it because Bobby's Girl is kind of boring. In the sweetest way. There's a lot of cool technical stuff going on here. I really appreciate what it's doing, what the artists are experimenting with, but as a story, I was not that compelled. Now, why am I talking about it instead? Well, I thought as a nice send-off to Mori Misaki, I would talk about everything that he did. And from what the credits are telling me, he was on the concept art phase of this film, probably did a lot of the thinking about what kind of style we'd use, how we're going to do this part, because it's a short project. This film was just made to promote an idol, a young lad who played the main character in this. There's about 4 songs in this film, and 3 of them are his. It's basically music video the anime. Returning once again, we have director Toshio Hirata. This is after Unico, but before Barefoot Gen 2. And we have special guest Akemi Yoshida, the creator of Banana Fish, which now has an anime show, was the character designer. If I was to talk about the character designs, they seem like an extension of what Harmageddon started. We're in that grounded period, listeners and music, real browns, real mechanics. This is just your slice of life kind of show. It's cloudy, foggy, nostalgic, a bit of a muted design at times. A lot of those tropes of the Madhouse team are still there. You know, your glitzy rivers, your high contrast, the unique framing. But Bobby's Girl isn't afraid to mix it up. Some of the mixed media in there. Illustrated postcard close-ups, dicey cuts, unique style there. Changing at the flip of a coin. And when I said music video, I was not kidding, because if I just dubbed some of these scenes with music, they totally could be a music video. It's such a time capsule for the sort of 80s lifestyle, from the Japanese expectation of a family to Japanese youth culture, rebellious attitudes, working a job, quitting school, being kicked out, riding your motorcycle, talking to girls, it's all there. Kind of like that punk attitude that came with such a commercial era. Bobby himself goes and works a job, dressing up like Maria Takeuchi every day at a motorcycle bar. He's very passionate about motorcycles. He's a very quiet, subdued gentleman. He's not too bright, but he is at least very set on what he wants, which is to kind of get by in a very laissez-faire way. A lot of that was kind of based on that 70s hippie style, laid-back attitude of coming-of-age American stories. But it falls for the symptoms of Madhouse's earlier output. And that striking experimental, borderline art house at times, but they lack cohesion, something that pulls it all together and makes it a compelling piece of story, narrative that you can latch onto, something that you would be remembered outside of its visual flair. And of course, I don't mean that for all early Madhouse stuff. Usually, a movie from Madhouse in the first decade relies heavily on its source material to do most of the pushing, most of the heavy lifting. And this one just didn't quite have it. It's got some songs which are fine. I'm not a huge fan of his style of music. This is not California Crisis by any regard. But I will say one thing and one thing alone. It's 44 minutes, but at the 40-minute mark, the whole reason for watching anything from Bobby's Girl starts. In a scene I would call reminiscent of a very famous music video. Can you guess which one? Let me show you. That's right, if Take On Me was on a motorcycle, we'd have this one down. And yeah, we're about that time, 1985, so we're pretty close to that boundary. But here's the kicker, folks. Here's the absolute kicker. This came out first. Yeah, I know, wild, right? Yeah, this came out months and months before the actual Take On Me music video we all know. While the original version of Take On Me is from 1984, the re-recorded version and music video by Steve Barron came out in, I reckon it was about, September, autumn 1985. Here we go. Funny how the world works out sometimes, eh? The real star here is Koji Morimoto. This is his iconic scene. Pen and ink bike, expertly made. This guy is a real star. Koji was inspired to join the animation industry by Dasaki himself and some of his work in the mid-70s. And he'd go on to be quite the asset to Madhouse, working on a lot of their early productions, and then going on to not only be one of the most iconic animators at Studio 4C, he went on to work on Akira. What does Akira have? Motorcycles. Wonder why he got that job. He's the perfect guy for it, though. This does seem a bit like a testing ground for those people. A lot of those animators at Madhouse did end up working on that project through association, since Otomo had worked in the studio Madhouse several times before. He went to Tokyo movie, Shinsha. But if there's a reason for watching any of Bobby's Girl, it's this one. The whole last 4 minutes, which do end very abruptly. Bitter blackness, you could say, crashing the plot to a halt. But hey, that rebellious spirit, sign of the times. Bobby's Girl is pretty much lost to time at this point. No one seemed to have picked it up. I'm not really sure what happened to it. Perhaps the whole situation of being a 44-minute joint feature for something that itself never got a huge amount of play, left it to be buried. After that, Idol never went anywhere. That's just the business, baby. Check it out if you want. I'm sure you can find it about. Cheers, cheers. Thank you to my patrons, including Joven, for all your support. There'll be more videos coming up, and we'll go from there.